chocolate syrup in the shower, everyone. Welcome to the Bad Rating Podcast. My name is Atlas Novak, and hey there, it's your boy, the Demon.
Hey there, demons. It's your
me.
boy.
Hey,
It's
the
me,
dog
your
was
boy.
covering it.
It's Chris Hetlinger. Hello.
And with us today, you know her from the Laser Time Podcast Network and the 30-20-10 podcast.
It's Dana Goodman. Yay.
Yay.
Hello.
Thank you for calling in to be on this show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're complete nobodies, and you're doing us a huge favor. So,
I didn't have to leave my house, so that's cool.
As you do. I feel like that's going to be easier getting podcast guests in the future. Hey, you want to come on our podcast? Who the hell are you? You don't have to leave.
You just stay at home, just talk for like an hour.
And then it just gets more and more insane. Hey, Obama, you want to come on Bad Rating?
Well,
yes.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I got invited to a Zoom chat that I thought was from a group of friends, and it turns out it was from a realtor I met like 5 years ago.
What?
They just had the same name, and so I just chatted for half an hour with like random people in their 60s that I've never met before, but it was like really nice to like face to face be talking to people, even though they were just strangers, just like, oh hi, what have you been doing?
So that's like
So
the quarantine
funny.
version of the plot of The Good Place.
Yes. Who knows? Maybe we all are in the good place right now. The good place.
Oh, the first season of The Good Place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here on the Bad Rating Podcast, we like to ask our guest, Diana, what are you into?
I'm into classic movies.
Oh, yeah. To people who haven't listened to 30-20-10, you should check it out. But you have a whole section to yourself, right?
Yeah, that was part of the deal of me coming on the podcast, is because we talk about the movies and TV and music from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and 10 years ago this particular week. And they said, oh, that would be so much fun to have you on, so we talk about stuff from the 80s. I'm like, I'm not coming on unless I can talk about stuff from the 40s.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I got the classic corner, so I do stuff that's like 75 years ago or 50 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the movie you chose for this episode had its, 50-year anniversary?
60.
60-year
Had a
anniversary.
60-year anniversary last month.
Wow. Well, congrats to Psycho,
Congrats to Alfred Hitchcock.
the master of suspense so intense. No
Yes.
defense against Hitchcock when she presents.
Oh, wait, I have an update. So just as we were starting to record, I let you guys know that my brother and his wife have been in labor for like 20 hours with their first kid.
Congratulations.
And we have a baby.
Hooray!
Yay!
Aubrey. Her name is Aubrey.
Aw.
And she is really tiny, and everyone looks deeply exhausted. So, cool.
As they probably would be.
That's, 20 hours.
That sounds just awful.
Oh.
That's going to be one of those
Yeah.
things where like, so what'd you do today? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Well, it was rough. Like, me and the grandparents and everyone got the news. Oh, we're going to the hospital yesterday at like 5 p.m.
Mhm.
And then didn't hear anything like all through the night. And so I had to like talk my parents down a little bit every now and then. And then, of course, I had a dream that was just me talking my parents down. So I don't have a lot of sleep on me either. But now I have a niece.
Hooray!
Just now.
Congratulations, Auntie Diana.
Hey.
Wait, so that's kind of like when you were a kid and you'd have the dream about getting up and getting ready for school, and then you wake up and have to get ready for school?
Or even worse, when you clean your room.
I've never had that one.
Oh, God, I've had it. It's the
No.
worst. And then I wake up and I'm like, my room is still dirty.
I had something like that where I was doing stand-up, and then a bunch of people got up and left over the course of it. I'm like... But they were still laughing. They just got up to leave, and then the room got emptier and emptier.
Oh, that's weird.
It's an attention whore's nightmare. But yeah,
Strange anxiety dream.
I don't know what to tell you, man. So the story we have for today is something called Maybe You're My Second Chance. It's on fanfiction.net. We will put the link to it in the show notes for you to go find, and also to give the artist credit. And it is by someone called Celitron. And the little blurb at the beginning is Psycho 2. When all was said and done, and the cobwebs in her mind had been swept away by morphine and the smell of Lysol and the taste of bad hospital food, one thing was starkly clear to Mary Loomis. Answering the door might have been the biggest mistake of my life. Slight Norman/Mary, some violence, a lot of motherly head games.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you guys asked me like pick a couple classic movies, and because it was Psycho's anniversary, I thought I could do that. And then I thought out of most classic movies, I feel like that's an easy choice because I figured there would be people who want to reform Norman. Through the power of their love, they make him not crazy, something like that. But Mother Head Games, okay.
I'm just thinking of, what was it, Foreigner or Journey that has that song Head Games? Head Games.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So the show is called Bad Reading. Of course, this is going to be a fucking nightmare. So strap in, Auntie, and enjoy. When all was said and done and the cobwebs in her mind had been swept away by morphine and the smell of Lysol and the taste of bad hospital food, one thing was starkly clear to Mary Loomis. Answering the door might have been the biggest mistake of my life. So they just repeated the first line. Cool. But then again, why shouldn't she have answered the door? It was a beautiful, peaceful afternoon. She was alone in the house, true. But then most people don't get murdered in broad daylight. Even here. Even at Bates Motel.
Oh, boy.
She felt safe. She felt complacent. She should have been waiting for the other shoe to drop. And drop it did!
I'm already curious when this takes place. They said it was Psycho 2, which there is a Psycho 2, and it's actually not that bad.
Really?
But there's up to 4.
Wow.
3 is terrible. 4 is actually okay.
Yeah.
Kind of. But 2 is surprisingly good.
Are they also by Alfred Hitchcock?
No.
Okay.
No.
Was it like someone tried to make a sequel every decade or something?
Kind of.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
It's pretty much that.
So they're like,
But,
this is totally 70s as fuck, and we're just not going to acknowledge it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, Psycho 2 might be like early 80s.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, it took a while. But shouldn't they already know that people have been murdered at the Bates Motel then?
I know. Why would I mean, unless you're like making it like an attraction, like this is the Bates Motel, stay in a haunted motel where people have died or something.
I feel like I could see people doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places like that now. Like you can stay on the Queen Mary, which is supposedly haunted overnight if you pay money.
I also, like, it's kind of like we've done playthroughs of Phoenix Wright before. And there's a case that takes place in a hotel, and that hotel room ends up becoming a big attraction.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
don't stay in the murder room. You know?
And the bellboy is all excited about it. He's like, we're going to make lots of money because people are crazy and would like to stay where people have been murdered.
As soon as the shock wore off, she felt strong enough to shift over to irritation, anger, indignation. Mother, she snapped, I told you not to come in here. I told you you'd be sorry. Lilia's response was to roughly shove her daughter aside and barrel into the front hall. Her head whipped around like a hunted animal's. Her eyes were red, ringed by dark circles. She had been crying. I guess you're Mary?
All right.
Yeah.
He isn't here, Mother.
Mary said, loud enough to have brought him running, if he was there. But he wasn't there, and Mary found herself strangely grateful for that fact, because he didn't know. Somehow, he still didn't know. Where the hell is he? Demanded Lila.
How should I know?
You had better hope you aren't hiding him.
Mother, you're being ridiculous.
I'm being ridiculous? I'm not the one trying to protect a murderer. Mary rolled her eyes. She was long out of patience for Lila and her games. I keep pronouncing the name wrong, I think. Is it?
Yeah, it's Lila.
Yep. Yeah, Lila and her games. Wait. Mary rolled her eyes. Lila and her games. I think it's you.
Oh, how could I hide him when I didn't even know you were coming back? Look, can you just go? He might be back any minute.
Where is he now? Lila sounded more reasonable.
I don't know. I went shopping for some groceries, and when I came back, he was gone. I suppose he went into town or something.
Mary gestured toward the kitchen where it had been obvious something was burning.
Now, can you please go back to the hotel? I've got something on the stove. I'll call you later, I promise.
I'd rather wait.
Mother, are you crazy?
Lila was quiet for a moment. I must be, she admitted. I really must be.
You're not kidding.
Mary cried.
But he might be back any minute. Now, will you please?
The back door slammed. Mary wheeled back around and met her mother's eyes.
It's him, I told you.
Okay, what voice should I give Norman, you think?
I guess we're talking Norman, not mother. So, So this is, I had to double check. So this is actually based on Psycho 2, which does have Mary Loomis, played by Meg Tilly,
Oh.
as the daughter of Lila Loomis, who is Janet Leigh's sister in the original.
Okay.
Oh,
And her boyfriend.
So they changed the family dynamics for the sequel.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
I
Okay.
could try and
I don't know.
I could give him, Alfred Hitchcock's Humpty Dumpty, like kind of B-word voice if you want.
He's here in the reading room. He's reading for his
Fuck it. I'm Alfred. Norman is Alfred Hitchcock. Murray, Norman's voice.
I told you.
Mary hissed.
Hurry up and go. I'll call you tonight, I promise.
Mary, Norman. Norman called again. Hey, Mary, something's burning on the stove. Where are you?
I'll be right there, Norman.
Mary sent a pleading look toward her mother. You really are trying to protect him, Lila said in a hushed voice.
I'm trying to protect you.
Oh, so I need protection?
Who knows with everything you've pulled?
Lila was staring over Mary's shoulder, and with a wince, Mary turned toward the kitchen doorway. Norman Bates had come up behind the two women as quietly as a man half his size.
Wait, what?
So he's like a sneaky little dude.
But yeah, but like, you don't have to be small to be sneaky. Like, you can
And
be...
he's like really skinny too.
Yeah, like you can, like that I think helps you being sneaky. Like you don't have to be a midget to be sneaky. In fact, I feel like you would knock more stuff over if you were like...
Just look at Slender Man. He's sneaky.
Yeah.
He's a tall dude.
And everyone thinks of Slender Man when they think of tall, sneaky people.
Yeah.
Why, who do you think of when you think of tall, sneaky people?
Your dad shows up behind me. When...
Dude, for real. Okay. So my dad's an eye doctor. We used to work in the same place, in the same office together. And my dad has this weird ability to just kind of appear behind you, which was super cool because he'd be like, son, you're like, Jesus, what? Can I help you?
It was way more disconcerting for me in the beginning because he would like deadpan say things to me that were like he was like, okay, so you can take over for me and I can go home. And I was just like, what? When I like just started working there and I didn't know that he was like full of dry, sarcastic humor.
Oh yeah, that guy is subtle when it comes to stuff like that, which is funny because he loves like gross out, physical comedy, but he's just got this like dry ass wit.
It was great once I got to know him, but at first I was like, no, wait, please don't go.
Oh no,
what I'm doing yet.
There are 3 people in my life who have the ability to get sarcasm so well that it makes you doubt yourself for a moment. It's him, it's my friend Matt from my other podcast, Nexus at Night, and my sister Phoebe. They something about right on the line.
Well, I'm already really gullible, like, in general. Like, I believe what people tell me, unless like I know that they're telling me something that's like patently untrue, or they're my brother, in which case I just never believe anything he says.
Right. Azula always lies.
Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, that's a really good comparison. My brother is Azula.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What's your brother like, Diana?
My brother is also incredibly understated and dry.
Nice.
Where a lot of times you're like, do you care about things? Because when he was a kid, he was really, really sensitive, and I guess higher education just drilled it out of him or something, because he is very dry, sort of devil may care attitude about just the most horrible things.
Does he have like his PhD or something? Does that drill it out of you? Or
no masters.
Oh, okay.
But one's from Yale and one's from Harvard. So
wow. Dang.
He's a fucking slacker.
That might.
Yeah.
Older or
we've
younger?
been very younger, a lot younger.
Oh, okay.
So it's weird that like he has a baby now, and I went like looking for baby books, and I'm like, I read him that one.
Wow. Wow.
What's the age difference?
7 years.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that is quite different.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Not like a second marriage or anything.
Just
So,
decided to have a second round of kids later.
well, the only thing my parents have ever told us is they plan to have us 4 years apart at least so that they wouldn't have to pay for 2 college educations at the same time.
Ah.
Oh, that's smart.
Just like, okay, that was pretty smart.
Yeah.
My parents.
But when you're 13, having a 6-year-old trying to get in your business is horrible.
Yeah. My brother and I were born close together. We were really close when we were young. And
How much? What's the age difference with you two?
slightly less than 2 years.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
Almost Irish twins.
Almost.
Yeah.
But not quite. But yeah, I was born, from my mom's perspective specifically, to socialize my brother. So.
This kid is a dangerous force for the world. We need. See, I was born 3 years apart because my mom didn't want my sister to not be close with me, but she also didn't. She had me so that my sister, and I quote, wouldn't be alone in this world. So my job is to be someone's monkey boy, which is funny considering I'm trying to be a stand-up comic. So just a neat little package for the universe there. But that's weird. We have like really close, kind of far apart, and super far apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't get along at all until he was at least 16.
Wow.
And then, then he's like closer to a grown-up, and we can like talk about closer to grown-up type stuff.
Mhm.
But
And probably
yeah,
be super,
until then.
super useful as a 16-year-old like guy to have an older sister with whom you can talk to about things.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he felt that way.
I think it's just useful to have either a female friend or an older sister to explain, or vice versa even, to explain the opposite sex. Like, this is a little gross, but my best friend in high school drew me a diagram with a guide on third base. In a notepad, like just scribbled in a notepad, okay, you go here, then here, all that stuff, and then left it in the glove compartment of the car I was borrowing from my sister, who came across it later. She was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I'm like, Natalie drew that for me. And she goes, "It's fairly accurate. Here you go."
Yeah, it would have been, I guess I could have been more helpful because the other thing, because we're so far apart, and I also hated living in LA where they were. So I moved away as fast as I could. So I left when he was 11 and I'd see him at the summers and holidays and stuff, but that's carried over. And anytime he pops up in one of my dreams, no matter what is happening, he is that same height. He's always shoulder height, because that's what he was when he was 11 when I left.
Interesting.
Even though he's taller than me now.
Oh, that's super. Yeah.
It's really weird.
And
never adjusted.
You're in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah.
Nice. I don't know. I feel like if I wasn't trying to do stand-up, I probably wouldn't live in LA.
Yeah, same. I mean, you already know where I want to move.
Jacking it in San Diego.
For the rest of my life. Or Hawaii.
Yeah. No, I was in Orange County even, which is not even LA. It's just, it's where the outbreak is now because people don't want to wear masks because freedom.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
yeah, it's that weird white conservative blob right next to Los Angeles. And I just hated it so much.
A blob is a good way to describe it. So wait, how did you meet like Chris Antista and Sarah and all them?
I met the Laser Time crew through my husband, Michael, who used to work at gamesradar.com with Chris. And then, so that's how I met him. And then Chris lived here in San Francisco, and then he moved back home to Florida. And that's where he knew Sarah and Sam and the rest of those crew. So it's like a weird extended family coming out from all these different people who used to work at Games Radar at the same time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. We were going to have a reunion and everything, but stupid COVID.
I mean, you still can after it's over, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we had a cocktail party for my husband's birthday that got a bunch of them back together. That was cool.
Aw.
Check in with everyone.
You can also have a Skype party until then.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of Zoom shows. It's very weird. Like your jokes get a lot slower because you have to wait for the signal to resolve. And you gotta wait for the
Oh.
laugh to get back to you. So you like do the joke and you go wait. Okay, so I was walking down the street the other day and just it's so different, and I think it's gonna affect me forever. And I think like I'm going to be a slower comedian after all this is done. It's like when you watch the '70s ones and they're like.
Well, people do complain about, or at least when I move different places, people are like, "Oh, you're from California," and I was like, "How can you tell?" And they're like, "You talk really fast," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess that's a California thing."
With all the vocal fry and the
Yeah.
and then what am I thinking
Just
of?
we have to get things done fast in California.
Well, yeah, because from nursery school you have like the sandal wearing hippie with a guitar playing Red Hot Chili Peppers songs instead of the ABCs. And all right, let's get back to it.
All right. I'm worried about where this is going.
Oh, get ready. He took in the
I'm
scene
already.
before him with careful deliberation. When he spoke, it was in a voice thick with pain. Oh God. So, am I doing Mother's voice or am I doing?
Oh God,
I think it's his voice.
is it his voice? Okay.
Oh my God, it's true. Dr. Raymond told me, but I didn't believe him. You two together, trying to drive me out of my mind?
Norman.
Mary broke off. But what could she possibly say? He knew. He knew now, and he would never look at her the same way again. And perhaps now their lives were truly in danger. He was hurt. He was deeply hurt, betrayed. He had killed before, and pain had driven him to it. Pain like this, she could only pray not. Drive you back out of your mind, you mean, Lila was shouting. It's true, he repeated, his eyes on Mary.
Norman, I'm so sorry.
Don't you dare apologize to him, snapped Lila.
I'm
Don't you
so
dare.
confused.
Why?
This just entire dynamic is very confusing to me.
Yeah. So the plot of Psycho 2 is Norman has gotten out of the mental hospital, and it's been a long time, but I believe Lila and her daughter, basically Lila does send her daughter Mary to sort of go undercover and be his friend and try to get evidence to send him back to the hospital.
Wait, does he like full on break out of it, or does he just?
No, they say he's fine.
Oh, okay. So he
Even though he's murdered like a dozen people.
That's not how criminal mental hospitals work, though.
maybe that was the case in the 80s or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
What was,
No, if someone is driven by their dead mother in their head to murder a bunch of women is not generally released back into society to the house where he did all the killing, and he's also unsupervised.
Oh God, yeah, that's not something that would happen. He might be released into the custody of like family or something.
what family? The mummified corpse of his mother?
That's what I'm saying. He would be let out because he's got no one to watch him.
All right.
Oh boy.
So basically, I ended up picking something that I was just because this always read as hinky to me when I was reading it. I don't remember much of this, and then I guess it's Psycho 2 instead. I'm still putting Psycho on the thumbnail, so
yeah. Well, it's still.
I mean, that's them's the breaks with fan fiction. They're not retelling the same story. It's just in that universe.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. So they picked up. I mean, yeah. If it it could either be Psycho 2 or someone's fan fiction about Psycho 1, and they've created a character to go bother Norman some.
I mean,
but she loves him.
I mean,
Mother, no.
it could be like like a Lion King 1.5, but for Psycho, and then you just find it on like the DVD rack next to the checkout at Ralph's.
Oh God.
I love that idea.
With DVD commentary by Alfred Hitchcock's Ghost. I'd watch that.
I would watch anything with DVD commentary by Alfred Hitchcock's Ghost.
What movie do you think would make the best, like, we performed a seance for Alfred Hitchcock so that he could do the DVD commentary for this movie?
Oh God. Oh man, that's hard.
it depends on whether or not the ghost is going to tell the truth or not.
I mean, it's Alfred Hitchcock, so just it's still him. I don't think it's one of those ghosts where he's caught in the same action over and over. I think it's just from the other side.
I would like to hear his take on like any of the Blumhouse films.
Okay.
Just pick any of them. Fantasy Island I actually had a fun time watching. Like it's not like, I mean, it's a B horror film, but if you go and expecting a B horror film, it's a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to hear his take on that.
How about you, Diana?
Oh, make him watch a Transformers sequel. Let's see what happens.
I'm here watching Transformers The Last Night, and I'm going back to the Netherworld alone.
I'm clearly in hell.
Yes. I would love to see him do one of the like modern classics, like an Interstellar, just to see what his take is. I feel like he would have something that's where he doesn't like it for some obscure reason that he won't tell us.
Well, there are a lot of... let's not get into Interstellar right now.
Oh. Oh, yeah, I forgot. You have like a weird bone to pick with that movie.
No, my dad is an astrophysicist, and I grew up in that kind of a household, so we'll just not get into that right now.
Right, of course. I mean, what do you put on a pentagram to summon Alfred Hitchcock? Old-timey camera, food?
Food, absolutely. More food.
Food. An icy blonde.
An icy blonde. And Jimmy Stewart, I guess?
Yeah, Jimmy Stewart or Cary Grant. Either one.
Well, they're bones, because they're also not alive anymore.
No, so
the mummified corpse of Jimmy Stewart. That's how you...
It has to be the mummified corpse.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what for Psycho. It perfectly fits.
It looks like Mother.
Yeah.
Not in the dress. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was into.
I would like to be buried in this dress, please.
North by Northwest, indeed. Anyway, Mary was practically shrieking as she began to approach the tall man, arms outstretched.
Norman, please, I can explain. I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear.
Lila roughly grabbed her daughter by the shoulder, spun her around, and with a grunt, delivered a ringing slap to her cheek. Norman...
Oh, smack.
Norman made I guess I should do this.
There you go.
Norman made an impulsive, protective movement toward the younger woman, but something made him stop short. Something in Lila Loomis's hand. Lila laughed despite herself, a short, barking cackle. Damn it. What a perfect couple you both... Oh, wait, fuck, that's not...
I think that's Lila?
I think. What a perfect couple you both are. Both mad as damned hatters. I hope you're happy, both of you. Lila, Norman said in a shaky voice, get out of my house before I call the police. The police? Before you call the police? I already called the police, Bates. They're on their way right this moment. I wouldn't show up here without the protection.
Mother, why did you call the police?
Mary hissed.
Norman hasn't done anything. This is so weird.
Why?
Why would anyone defend Norman Bates?
Because they're psycho? Roll credits? Eventually, Cinema Sins is going to break through that door and bitch slap me, and I'll deserve it. But I just love that running gag so much that if you say the title of the thing, you gotta say roll credits.
Yep.
Anyway, Lila looked at Mary with exasperation. Norman tried to kill you.
What are you talking about?
You were afraid for your life. Bates couldn't resist a pretty young woman. He seduced you, and then he was going to kill you, just like he killed your aunt.
You're crazy.
Mary, rather boldly, took several steps out toward her mother and Norman.
You're crazy.
Wait, I'm not crazy, dear. It's a mother's intuition. After we last spoke, I could tell you were afraid, terrified of him.
Wait, what?
What? Mother's intuition. Okay, so the original Psycho, yeah, Norman kills Mary's aunt and then comes to kill Lila. She's the one that's in the basement and finds Mother.
Yeah.
And then he comes running in with a giant knife screaming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think she's a little suspicious of the guy.
Yeah, as she rightly should be. Well,
I mean, and I imagine it's like Belgium after World War One. They're like, guys, Schlieffen plan. Come on, are you really not see this coming? Terrified of him. Well, what else could I do but come to the rescue? Mary shook her head with weariness.
all right, fine. You came to the rescue. Now, will you please go back to your hotel?
Norman, disgusted, turned away from them. But a moment later, in the still silence of the late afternoon, he heard the unmistakable sound of a revolver cocking behind him. Oh, that's like a shotgun. Whatever.
Suddenly it's a shotgun.
Yeah.
A shotgun revolver.
Sorry, I don't know much about guns. My apologies. You, I think?
Oh,
yeah,
is
Mother.
Is it Mary? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mother!
Mary was screaming now.
Mother, put that gun away. Are you insane?
Norman turned back. Put the gun away? Of course not. I came here to save you, dear. To save you from that maniac,
This
Lila
is
cried.
turning Lila into, like, she was the protagonist of the movie, kind of.
Yeah.
So it's turning her into a villain. I don't dig it.
Me? Oh,
And what I had to do, I did.
it's one happy puppy
Oh,
right there.
Scruff.
Like so distracted. Like Scruff is so happy.
Just chilling. Usually he's like running around on the floor somewhere, but this episode he's just up and
He wants to be a lap dog today.
No.
Probably because I didn't sleep very much last night. So he's like, I will keep you alert and awake.
and what I had to do, I did in self-defense to save you and to save my own life from that monster. Lila, Norman said. I get a laugh every time I do the Humpty Dumpty voice. Norman said with that same coolness that Mary had found so attractive at the diner.
Oh, God.
Put that down. No one needs to get hurt.
The sexiest voice in the world.
No one needed to get hurt 20 years ago or 22 years ago.
Dude, so wait. So
Yeah.
Norman is like this really old man. And,
No.
and this young, hot thing is in love with him.
I don't know. My dad married someone 25 years younger than him. It's possible.
That's true.
Yeah.
Did the
I got a
woman
wow
your
from the
dad,
producer.
did your stepmom kill your aunt though?
No.
And then try to kill someone else?
No, she makes more money than him. I don't even think it's like a gold digger situation. She went out and made something of herself. God damn it! So, yeah, and yeah, Mother Mary cried. Stop it.
Oh, Mother!
Mary cried.
Stop it!
No one needed to. No one needed to die 22 years ago. What's the difference? That's the difference between then and now. Someone badly needs to die right now.
Mother!
You could have stopped this, Mary. Lila's hand was steady. Bates didn't have to die. He could have gone back into the institution if you had just stuck to the plan. If you had just listened to Mother.
Oh.
Will you be able to live with this? Because I damn sure will. Sirens were approaching. Lila nodded toward the door. That's the police now. Lila waved her other hand toward Mary, beckoning her over. Mary, come over here. Answer the door. A smirk. And you, Norman, I'm sure there's a door waiting for you, too. In hell.
Mother, stop it!
She fired.
I don't know where this is going.
And it's your turn.
Mary was thrown backward with the force of the gunshot. She collapsed against a stunned Norman. She was limp as a corpse, though she was still breathing ragged, shallow breaths. Norman quickly grabbed her under her arms and gently lowered her to the floor. Within seconds, her sweater was wet with thick, soupy blood.
Ugh.
Also known
Soupy? Soupy, yeah.
That's like chunks. I feel like there's guts in there.
There's carrots and little bits of onion.
Yeah, Campbell's Blood Soup. Available at a Ralph's near you.
Oh, goodness. Norman easily laid her slight frame over his legs, resting her head on his lap. There we go. I got the sentence eventually. She was shaking uncontrollably and blinking up at him, unable to focus her eyes, completely disoriented. A trickle of blood ran from the corner of her mouth. Also, containing carrots and onions. Lila Loomis let out a single piercing shriek of pure agony, and she dropped the gun on the floor, collapsed to her knees, and dug her nails into her scalp. As the police officer scaled the steps up to the door, she tore out a fistful of hair.
You bastard! You monster! You killed her!
Lila howled.
You killed my baby.
Page break.
Still you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Okay.
When the police arrived inside moments later and took in the strange sight in the front hall of the Bates house, naturally the first suspect was Bates himself. Bates, stunned, speechless, covered in the blood of a young girl, another young girl. And then there was the girl's mother, crumpled on the floor, repeating again and again, "You killed her! You killed her! You killed her!" until she no longer had breath for speech. Well, oh wait, yeah, that was...
No, it's okay. I'm just doing the "you killed her," like out of breath. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay.
Oh, my nose itches and I can't. Anyway.
We're 6 feet apart. You can scratch if you need to.
Yeah, I could, but I know. Anyway. Well, clearly, Bates was guilty again. It was ultimately only the testimony of that poor girl herself, Lila Loomis.
Lila Loomis?
Oh, yeah, Lila Loomis, quote, baby, unquote, that spared Norman Bates another arrest. What the hell happened here? Demanded the officer. Bates wasn't able to speak. He looked profoundly guilty. Wait, he looked profoundly guilty?
I imagine just I need to take the mask off for this. This face. It's like that gif of the little girl who's like,
Makes me think of how like Coco the gorilla said that it's her cat ripped the sink out of the wall. She she threw a tantrum, ripped the sink out of the wall, and then when her keepers came and asked what happened, she said that the cat had done it.
I don't know. I didn't know about that story. That's funny.
It's adorable, and I'm like, really, really, Coco? Did you think they were gonna buy that? You're smarter than that.
It was worth a shot.
I guess. Her cat was all ball. Oh, that's so cute. I wish they would teach more gorillas sign language. I don't know how easily gorillas learn sign language though. So,
do you guys know the sign for abortion? I think I showed it to you.
Yes, we had it on this. It was on this podcast.
Okay, just again for Diana and everybody else. This is the sign for abortion.
So it's cradling a baby, picking it up, and throwing it.
Yep, with one hand. Just whatever. Yeah, just chef's kiss.
Good times. Oh, where was I?
Still, look profoundly guilty.
Looked profoundly guilty. Oh, this is Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, Lila. Mary gasped. Lila did it. Shot me. She wanted to. A painful breath. Hold on. What do you mean, miss? It was your mother? Your mother shot you? Asked to the disbelieving deputy. In Norman Bates's house? Yeah. Are you sure? As she's dying, are you sure?
Yeah, but really though?
Are you ask Norman.
Now I'm half expecting the cop to be like, okay, and do you happen to know which hand she shot with? Because we need to take the fingerprints after, and yeah. She's dead. Fuck.
It's basically what's happening. The last coherent words spoken that afternoon. Wait, what?
I'm guessing, like, because it erupted into chaos after?
Maybe.
Last
coherent. That also means that the police officers could no longer speak English after that, so they're all like, like suddenly reverted back to toddler speech.
Hashtag defund the police. Yeah. Although I guess in this case, this would be like what you would keep detectives for, Anyway.
Solving actual murders.
Yeah.
Yeah. But putting more money into crime scene technicians and criminalists and not letting multiple serial killers out of the asylum?
Yeah.
To go back to their house and mind their own business?
Although I guess if this is taking place in the same era as the first Psycho, not when it was made, but the story, then it was probably half of that asylum is communists.
Right.
Suspected communists.
Sad, but yeah.
Or women
right.
on their periods or something.
Yeah, they need to make room for all the homosexuals.
Right.
Oh, God.
As you do.
So they gotta let the murderers out.
Is
Yeah,
this in the same era as One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
pretty close.
Okay, yeah. That
I feel like
that book
Cuckoo's
was,
Nest is about the late 50s, early 60s. So yeah,
yeah.
about
When did it come out, though?
One Flew. I don't remember.
75.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Norman Bates hadn't been home in 3 days. He hadn't showered or slept,
Gross.
as you do.
Oh,
He had barely eaten. He was making quite a nuisance of himself around the 4th floor nurse's station. When will she wake up? Oh, wait, this is him. When will she wake up? He asked the trainee night nurse for the 7th time that day.
When she wakes up.
The same terse response he had gotten 6 times before. Then there's a line break, and then it says, on the 4th day she woke up, and then another line break.
And then.
That's quite a chapter.
Yeah. Chapter 4, one sentence.
Yeah. It's like some Gary Paulson shit right there.
Well, the next one is only 4 paragraphs. The motel had been left unlocked and unattended for a full month. Looters, convinced of the inherent value of every single material object in the building.
This came out in 2019, so that's not a commentary on what's going on right now. The supposed looting. Okay. Anyway, you were saying?
You know that Bates place where that crazy lady shot her daughter? Well, this is a genuine ashtray from that Bates place. You want it? Ha! Put down that 50 unless you got another one just like it. Wait, what?
I think it's like an example of why looters are taking stuff out of the Bates Motel.
Yeah, because they're like, this is, again, like...
Murder hotel!
Yeah. Had ransacked the place and left almost nothing behind. Norman saw the state of things in his motel, acknowledged it, and then got in the car where Dr. Raymond was waiting.
I guess should I be Dr. Raymond? Do you want to be Dr. Raymond? Or
And is Dr. Sure, you could be Dr. Raymond.
okay.
Oh, for quality's sake, I should tell you, Dr. Raymond apparently is played by Robert Loggia.
Oh, the Laser Time famous / actually famous Robert Loggia. Hang on.
Yep.
R as in Robert Loggia. Okay, I think I can make that work.
There you go.
Lila Loomis is going to stand trial in October.
To send Dr. Raymond in his customary no-nonsense way.
I think it would go a long way toward putting her behind bars if Mary could testify. What about me?
Asked Norman shakily.
You want to testify? Well, sure, I'm the one she wanted to shoot. You think that's a good idea, being on the stand?
Norman fiddled with the car's ashtray, opening and closing it.
Wait. I think this is Norman talking.
I think so.
I don't know.
He said honestly.
Do you think Mary will testify? Sorry.
This is some sparkling dialogue, man. I am on the edge of my seat.
I'm sure this is keeping you riveted after being awake for like 20 hours for updates about a new baby.
Raymond blew the smoke from his cigarette out the window. You know better than I would. A few miles passed in silence. It's like she just snapped, isn't it? Asked Norman. Lila Loomis, I mean. Like they say, crazy people snap. Like they said I snapped, but I didn't snap. Okay.
I'll go a little mad sometimes.
You're all mad here.
No, we talked about that, didn't we? There's no such thing as a snap. Trauma is like a scarf being pulled from both ends, unraveling. It builds and builds for years, the pain, breaking apart a little more day by day until there's nothing left to keep it together in one piece. And then, Norman nodded, I guess I can see how it happened. I guess I even feel a little sorry for her.
Oh my God. Fuck you. You're sorry for the lady whose sister you murdered because you liked mom too much. Granted, now he was abused. That's how he got that way, but he still killed a bunch of people.
And he's just a little sorry for her though. just a little bit.
For Lila? For Lila. They were only a few miles from the hospital. Norman, Raymond took another puff of his cigarette. Are you sure you want her to keep living with you? Murray? Asked Norman. Well, of course. Why wouldn't I? Well, considering she and her mother conspired against you and to send you back to the institution, and her mother nearly shot you in cold blood, you're being awfully big about this and awfully naive. Okay, now I want to punch him. Doctor, Mary never wanted to hurt me. She only did it because, Norman trailed off, she took that bullet from me, Doctor. I owe her my life, and the least I can do is take care of her now. I suppose, if it hadn't been for her... No, Doctor, I don't think I'm being naive. I just think I know where she's coming from. You mean because of her mother? I did a few crazy things because of my mother, too. Fuck
God, a few crazy
Fuck
things.
you.
Ugh.
Yo.
This is terrible.
Dare I say it's...
Bad
Reading?
reading. Hey.
Roll credits.
Low credits. You want to do it? Oh, wait. Yeah. Let's see again.
Norman. She's getting more and more like ultra feminine as I go. Norman, I'm fine. You don't have to keep fussing over me. Mary's voice was still hoarse from all the tubes and still quite weak despite over a month of rehabilitation and wholesome, disgusting hospital food. At the moment, Norman was fixing her covers for the third time since he had brought her tea.
Oh, I don't mind fussing over you, that is.
Oh, you're driving me nuts. Just sit down. I need to talk to you. Norman could hardly stop looking at her awkward sentence. At how pale she was and how frail she looked. He had put her to bed in the setting sun, and now, in the light of the single bedside lamp, she looked almost ghostly. This is creepy.
I don't want to know what bedroom she's in, because I think I can guess.
I know, right? The operation had been a risky one. Mary Loomis, age 22, had nearly expired on the table. It was only thanks to her youth, good health, and the fact that the bullet wedged itself just above her heart that she was alive to tell about it.
So, basically...
So right where her aorta is?
Maybe it's like over here or something. It's not in your actual heart. Why am I cupping my own boob? It's like up here in the shoulder. Maybe she had like a Teddy Roosevelt thing going where it takes more than that to kill a bull moose with the...
But where did exactly Teddy Roosevelt get hit?
He got hit like kind of in the chest, but he had a 50-page speech like folded up several times in a metal eyeglass case, so that like slowed the bullet down.
So it didn't get all the way to his heart.
Well, it embedded itself in him, but it didn't get to his heart.
Okay. See, that's more plausible than like just above your heart, because just above your heart is like pretty significant damage that you wouldn't survive from.
You're better medically trained than I am. I'm just... I do medical records. That's not much training. It's like a lot of office bitchery stuff. Anyway.
I mean, I was a tech, so it's not like I'm... I also went to school!
Yeah, creative writing maker. Yeah, it's not...
Versus, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, the heart thing is to make it more dramatic, but I'm still picturing the hero shoulder wound that every hero gets.
Oh, yeah.
So it's right.
Yeah, I think I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Where it's like right in the perfect location.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just, nope, nothing really there.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Just bones and stuff.
Yep. You got an arm sling later,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, oh, you're a hero.
Don't mind all the tendons and stuff there. Those don't matter.
Don't Mind All the Tendons would make a great like album name for a band.
All the tendons. Hopefully they have extreme guitarists.
Extreme guitarists?
Yes.
Oh, just like...
Because you use your tendons a lot while you're
Oh,
guitaring.
Eddie Van Halen type?
Yeah.
I feel like I could see Van Halen having an album like that.
Yeah.
I got to see him in concert, and it's
Neat.
like, you ever see David Lee Roth look tired?
No.
That's exactly what it was.
Wow.
What was the...
I didn't know such thing was possible.
Well, I mean, he'd been at it for 30 plus years, right? So motherfucker's tired.
Yeah, but there were people looking at him.
Yeah, but...
He seems to really enjoy that.
He does, but it's the kind of thing where he's still trying to not be tired, but he's in his 60s, so he's tired. It's just the way it is, you know?
I don't know. My dad's in his 60s, and he's pretty spry. He had more energy than I did when I was like,
That's true.
yeah. So, it varies from person to person. Maybe he had a hard night the night before
One thing
performance.
I can say, better than Sammy Hagar, no matter what. Because fuck you, Sammy Hagar. All right.
Yep.
Those are them some fighting words.
Yeah, all the good albums were under David Lee Roth. Whatever. That's not. I don't want to die on this hill. Keep going.
Okay. Shot. Oh, I guess it's a doctor. Shot almost to death by her own mother, the doctor had said with a grim shake of her head, like a horror movie.
Ugh.
Roll credits. Norman. I love these like disgusted sounds. Norman smoothed down the top sheet one last time, then dragged the wooden chair over to her bedside. Oh, God. I hope this isn't the wooden chair, where he planned to spend the night watching over her, just as she had done in the hospital. Wait, just as he had done in the hospital. She wouldn't take a single breath without him noticing, and it made Mary profoundly uncomfortable. Norman, really?
No.
No, really, yeah. Watching you while you sleep. That's always not creepy. Norman, really? I appreciate... Stop it! Norman's guilty hand reached out without thinking to fluff her pillow again.
Look kind of flat.
He muttered. It's not flat. It's fine. Now you please listen to me.
Yes.
Norman, I'm thinking I should testify against my mother.
I'll testify too.
Norman said automatically.
On your behalf, of course.
The gravity of his gesture was not lost on Mary. Not at all. Norman, who hated crowds, who hated reporters, who had spent enough time in a courtroom to last 10 men the rest of their lives, was willing to testify against Lila Loomis in defense of himself and of the frail young woman who had lived under her thumb for 22 years. Norman, are you sure? Mary whispered, deeply touched.
I've got to.
Why? No.
There is so much phlegm between the three of us with our sounds that it's...
Yeah.
I don't get this whole, like, romanticizing of serial killers thing.
Oh, especially now.
No.
Yeah.
No one would think any less of you if you stayed home. How I wish I could stay home. I can't imagine what it's going to be like facing her like that. Norman smiled.
You won't have to do it alone. Dr. Raymond will testify too, and we'll get a good lawyer. The phone's been ringing constantly. Every day, some new hotshot lawyer is calling up, wanting to take the case. I really hope one of those is Phoenix Wright, just for the
Phoenix Wright?
crossover potential.
He's a defense attorney. This would be Miles Edgeworth.
Oh, right.
Or Francisca.
Or
Von Karma.
Or Dodo, or anybody, really.
Godot wasn't a hotshot new attorney, though.
Well, new prosecutor.
That's true, yeah.
Why are we doing this?
I don't know. I'm
Let's
sorry.
finish this up.
No kidding? Mary laughed a little.
They're calling it the trial of the century. I think that's a little silly, but a lot of them are offering to do it for free.
Wait, the trial of a century wasn't his trial?
You'd think, right?
Yeah. Guy killed like a dozen women at random because his dead mom told him to. Also, he stole her corpse and hid it in the house. Yeah, that's a little more interesting than, oh, this lady was mad and she shot and accidentally hit her kid.
Yeah.
Wait. They're calling it the trial of the century. I think that's a little silly, but a lot of them are offering to do it for free.
Now, isn't that nice? Mary asked wistfully. See, Norman, you've got the whole world believing in you now. God damn it, why?
Well, yeah, I guess I do. But I think most of them just want to defend a pretty girl like you.
Oh, this is so creepy. I don't...
And we're going to end it there, unfortunately. There's a little bit more of that story to go. You can find it yourself on fanfiction.net. Linked below. Diana, what'd you think?
Oh my god. So like I said, it's been a while since I watched Psycho 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it being much more complicated and interesting than just, I've decided I love Norman Bates and I'm okay now. Everyone else is the problem. Now our love will fly on light wings to the sky.
On a car out of the high school into the sky. So I can go join Scientology.
Into a swamp. Because that's where the bodies are.
Oh God.
This is it's a different kind of sympathy for Norman Bates than I was expecting. I really was sort of expecting to like, yeah, he is crazy, and then he meets a special woman or guy or whatever who
The magic
makes him
what'd you call it?
love life.
Magic healing something?
Magical healing cock.
That's right. um, so I guess in that case it'd be magical healing boobs, or
I guess.
Yeah. So I was expecting something kind of like that instead of taking the idea from Psycho 2 of this woman and her daughter trying to put him back in the asylum, rightfully so, and being like, oh, that poor persecuted man.
Oh God.
I mean, we never know. Like the rest of the story could say otherwise, but at least for what we saw, yes, that's what we got, and that's what you had to listen to. That reading. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again for coming on.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, dialogue was just so scintillating. It was just like having my friends talk.
Hey, I think I did a pretty good Robert Loggia.
That was pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. You got the accent?
Thank you. Thanks again for coming on. Where can people find you out there?
They can find me on Twitter at LicinANerd, LECINENERD, or follow 302010 podcast at 302010 podcast.
Yay! Or check out the rest of the Laser Time Network, because I quite enjoy it myself. Chris, where can people find you?
At stolen_relic on Instagram and on Twitter, and also we have a Patreon now, so
yeah,
please.
Patreon.com/badreadingpod. All the tiers are named after tropes in fiction, but you also get things like a Discord server or helping us vote on the story we read for that week.
So,
oh God.
Yeah. So things like MacGuffin or Deus Ex Machina. It's good fun. You can find me at Atlas Novak on Twitter or Instagram, or our show at Bad Rating Pod in those same places. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks again to Diana for crossing podcast networks like the best crossover ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And wash your goddamn hands, and have a good night, everybody.